In a world increasingly defined by global interdependence, the relationship between the United States and China stands as a pivotal axis for both nations and the broader international community. Amidst ongoing geopolitical tensions, Chinese Ambassador Xie Feng recently articulated a call for constructive dialogue and collaboration during a reception at the Chinese Embassy in Washington, D.C. The event not only marked the arrival of a new pair of giant pandas but also ushered in the celebrations for the 2025 Chinese New Year. Ambassador Xie emphasized the critical nature of cooperation between the two nations, particularly given their status as permanent members of the UN Security Council and the world's two largest economies. Turning back on each other is not an option, he stated, underscoring that confrontation and conflict would lead to disastrous consequences. This perspective is particularly relevant as the two countries navigate complex issues ranging from trade and agriculture to law enforcement and international crises. Highlighting the economic ties that bind the U.S. and China, Xie pointed out that bilateral trade grew by 3.7% over the past year despite a backdrop of adversity. The ambassador noted the participation of a large U.S. business delegation at the 7th China International Import Expo, as well as the impressive participation of over 1,300 Chinese enterprises in the recent International Consumer Electronics Show in the United States. Notably, Tesla reported record annual sales in China, a testament to the interconnected nature of their economies. All these have fully demonstrated that our interests are deeply intertwined, Xie remarked, advocating for the removal of barriers to economic exchanges. His message was clear: expanding mutually beneficial cooperation is a priority for both nations, and it is what the people of both countries genuinely seek. The ambassador's appeal for a more focused approach to cooperation comes at a time when the potential for positive engagement is often overshadowed by diplomatic friction. The backdrop to these remarks reflects the broader economic landscape in China. Recent reports indicate a modest increase in profits for state-owned enterprises, up by 0.4% year-on-year in 2024. This slight uptick suggests that while challenges persist, the Chinese economy is striving to regain momentum. In a related development, a groundbreaking study published in Nature.com details the creation of a long-term reconstructed vegetation index dataset in China utilizing fused data from MODIS and Landsat satellites. The study, which encompasses data from 2001 to 2020, aims to provide enhanced monitoring of vegetation dynamics. This dataset with high spatial and temporal resolution marks a significant advancement in ecological data collection and analysis, enabling researchers to better understand and respond to environmental changes. As China continues to navigate its economic recovery and diplomatic relations, these developments signal a landscape ripe for potential collaboration, particularly in addressing global challenges such as climate change and public health. Ambassador Xie's call for concrete actions and the ongoing enhancements in ecological data monitoring underscore the intertwined fates of the U.S. and China, suggesting that the future may hold opportunities for renewed cooperation provided both nations recognize their mutual interests and the benefits of collaborative efforts. As the Lunar New Year approaches, the Chinese Communist Party is tightening its grip on digital gifting practices, particularly the virtual red packets exchanged among officials and their families. In a striking announcement, the party has warned its cadres against accepting these digital cash gifts, citing concerns over corruption and the integrity of official duties. This move underscores the ongoing commitment of the party to combat graft and maintain strict discipline within its ranks. The Central Organization Department, which oversees personnel matters for the Communist Party, issued a clear directive that accepting or giving virtual presents that could influence official work is considered a violation of established party regulations. The piece published on the department's website explicitly cautioned against gambling or indirectly accepting bribes in the form of virtual red packets via WeChat, one of China's most widely used social media platforms with over 1 billion monthly active users. This warning arrives just days before the Lunar New Year, which begins on January 28 and is traditionally a time for gifting and family gatherings. The emphasis on discipline is particularly poignant. as the party seeks to reinforce its standards among its nearly 100 million members. Cadres should also remind their family members to be cautious about accepting virtual red packets, the article stated, highlighting the party's intention to extend its oversight beyond professional circles. The red packet feature on WeChat allows users to send virtual money to individuals or groups, making it a popular choice for gifting during the festive season. However, the party's warning reflects a growing anxieties over potential abuses of this feature. The guidelines come in the wake of broader anti-corruption campaigns that have intensified under President Xi Jinping, who has made it clear that any perceived misconduct will not be tolerated. Experts suggest that this move may also connect to a larger narrative around the Chinese economy, which is undergoing significant shifts. As China transitions towards a more sustainable economic model, the government is keen to eliminate any practices that may undermine its objectives, including corruption in various forms. The party's stringent stance on digital gifting indicates a desire to maintain control over all aspects of governance, especially as the country grapples with economic challenges and strives to project an image of integrity. Looking ahead, the implications of this directive will likely resonate beyond the immediate festive period. As the Communist Party continues to shape the behavior of its members, the move sets a precedent for future regulations concerning digital interactions within the political sphere. Observers will be watching closely to see if this initiative leads to a broader reassessment of how gifts, both physical and digital, are perceived in the context of governance, potentially influencing cultural practices in the long term. As China approaches the Lunar New Year, traditionally a time of economic optimism and consumer exuberance, a complex picture is emerging regarding its economic health. While official figures claim that the economy grew by 5% last year, skepticism abounds regarding the accuracy of this data. Economic experts suggest that the reality may be less rosy, raising concerns about consumer confidence and spending habits as the nation gears up for the Spring Festival, which begins on January 29. Economist Yu Yongding has voiced cautious optimism about China's economic prospects for 2025, suggesting that the government's recent policy measures could facilitate a recovery. The central bank's easing policies may boost GDP growth and restore market confidence, he stated, hinting at a potential rebound driven by strategic government intervention. However, this optimism is tempered by the realities of a consumer landscape that is increasingly hesitant to spend. The flower market, a crucial indicator of consumer sentiment during the Spring Festival, is experiencing a downturn that reflects broader economic concerns. According to Judy Yang, a business development manager at a floral fair in Guangzhou, retail flower prices have plummeted by 10% to 20%, driven by both a rise in supply and a lack of consumer enthusiasm. This year we've seen vendors express a less than optimistic outlook for sales as consumers are reluctant to invest in festive decorations, she explained. The floral fairs, which should be bustling with activity, have instead seen stall costs and plant prices decline ahead of the holiday, signaling a potential dip in domestic demand. This juxtaposition of optimism from policymakers and a more bleak consumer reality is further complicated by external factors. Goldman Sachs recently predicted that the Chinese stock market could see an additional 15% to 20% increase, buoyed by government stimulus measures and low valuations. The MSCI China Index has already surged over 34% this year, a stark contrast to the sluggish consumer spending observed in retail sectors. Analysts point to several reasons for this stock market momentum, including the easing of investment risks and an anticipated uptick in earnings growth. Goldman Sachs estimates that the latest support measures could bolster GDP by an additional 40 basis points, with forecasts of 4.7% and 4.3% growth for 2024 and 2025 respectively. Yet despite these forecasts, experts caution that significant challenges remain, including low consumer spending and a beleaguered property market. As China prepares to welcome the Year of the Snake, the dual narrative of an optimistic stock market juxtaposed against faltering consumer confidence raises important questions about the underlying health of the economy.
The outcome of this holiday season, particularly in sectors like floral sales, could serve as a key barometer for China's economic recovery. Policymakers will undoubtedly be watching closely,
as the implications of consumer behavior during this festive period may influence future economic strategies and the overall trajectory of growth.
Looking ahead, the interplay between government stimulus and consumer habits will be crucial in shaping China's economic landscape.
The coming weeks will provide critical insights into whether the optimism surrounding policy measures can translate into tangible improvements in consumer sentiment, ultimately determining the path forward for the world's second-largest economy. In a significant turn in U.S. defense policy, newly confirmed Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has articulated a bold vision for the Pentagon, focusing on rapidly deploying emerging technologies to counter perceived threats from China and other adversaries. Sworn in on January 25, 2025, Hegseth's inaugural address emphasized a commitment to put America first and restore military readiness amid evolving global challenges. Delivering his first message to the force, Hegseth stated, "It is the privilege of a lifetime to lead the warriors of the Department of Defense under the leadership of our Commander-in-Chief Donald J. Trump.
We will never back down."
His comments reflect a clear alignment with Trump's doctrine of peace through strength, which prioritizes military modernization and deterrence. During his confirmation process, Hegseth highlighted the importance of investing in key technologies including artificial intelligence and advanced drone systems. He stated that revitalizing the defense industrial base and reforming the acquisition process are essential to achieving these goals.
"We will rebuild our military by matching threats to capabilities," he remarked, underscoring his intent to streamline operations within the Pentagon. Hegseth's focus on countering Chinese aggression aligns with the prior administration's initiatives such as the Replicator program aimed at bolstering U.S. forces in the Indo-Pacific. However, the new secretary's approach also marks a shift toward a more aggressive posture, particularly in light of recent tensions that have arisen over incidents involving Chinese surveillance operations. The backdrop of Hegseth's confirmation is fraught with complexities as the Biden administration faced scrutiny for its handling of Chinese incursions, including a widely publicized incident involving a suspected Chinese spy balloon. While Hegseth did not address these specific issues directly, his emphasis on defending the homeland on the ground and in the sky points to a more proactive defense strategy. Moreover, Hegseth's remarks indicate a broader commitment to enhancing military lethality and accountability. "Our focus will be on lethality, meritocracy, accountability standards, and readiness," he stated, setting a tone for the Pentagon's operations in the coming years. This vision is expected to resonate with military personnel who have raised concerns about the need to reinforce the warrior ethos within the ranks. As the new administration navigates the intricacies of U.S. China relations, Hegseth's hawkish stance may exacerbate existing tensions. His confirmation comes at a time when the geopolitical landscape is increasingly volatile, with China asserting its influence in the Indo-Pacific and the U.S. grappling with the implications of its foreign policy decisions. The dialogue between Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping has already hinted at potential friction, with both leaders expressing differing views on critical issues such as trade sovereignty and military cooperation. In conclusion, Secretary Hegseth's ascension to the role of Defense Secretary marks a pivotal moment in U.S. defense strategy, characterized by a renewed focus on rapidly deploying emerging technologies and confronting adversarial threats, particularly from China. As the administration moves forward, the implications of Hegseth's policies will be closely monitored, especially as they pertain to military readiness and the broader context of U.S. China relations. The coming months will reveal whether this aggressive stance can effectively deter threats while fostering international stability. In a significant diplomatic move, China has successfully brokered a new ceasefire agreement between Myanmar's military government and the Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army (MNDAA), a key ethnic rebel group. This latest truce, reached in the Chinese border city of Kunming, marks the second such agreement in just over a year, raising hopes for a more stable peace in a region long affected by conflict. The ceasefire took effect on January 18, 2025, following a series of discussions facilitated by Beijing, which has become increasingly invested in the peace process due to the implications of ongoing violence for regional stability and trade. Analysts suggest that this ceasefire might have a better chance of holding compared to the previous agreement signed in January 2024, which collapsed within 6 months. This time is different, observed observers, highlighting China's commitment to stronger mediation efforts alongside a perceived weakening of the junta's position.
The military government has faced mounting challenges both domestically and internationally, which could make it more amenable to negotiations.
China's strategic interests in Myanmar are multifaceted.
With a 2,000-kilometer border shared with Myanmar, Beijing is concerned about the spillover effects of conflict, including instability that could disrupt trade routes and jeopardize substantial investments in infrastructure. The MNDAA, representing the Kokon minority part of a coalition of ethnic armed groups known as the Three Brotherhood Alliance,
benefits from China's leverage as it seeks to balance relations with both the junta and various rebel factions.
The backdrop to this development is the broader context of Myanmar's protracted civil war, which has roots in ethnic tensions and political strife since the military coup in February 2021. The humanitarian situation continues to deteriorate, with thousands displaced and in dire need of assistance. As China mediates, the international community watches closely to see whether this latest accord can lead to a more sustainable peace or if it will succumb to the same fate as its predecessor. While some express cautious optimism about the potential for a more durable agreement, the road to lasting peace remains fraught with challenges.
The dynamics of local politics, the interests of various ethnic groups,
and the potential for external influences complicate the situation.
Observers stress that genuine reconciliation will require more than just a ceasefire. It necessitates addressing the underlying grievances that fuel the conflict.
As the world looks on, the success of this ceasefire could serve as a litmus test for China's growing role as a mediator in regional conflicts. Should this agreement hold, it may bolster Beijing's influence not just in Myanmar but across Southeast Asia, positioning it as a key player in promoting stability in a region that has often been marked by strife. Conversely, if the ceasefire falters, it could undermine China's diplomatic credibility and highlight the limitations of its approach to conflict resolution.
Ultimately, while this ceasefire is a step forward,
the prospects for enduring peace in Myanmar will depend on continued commitment from all parties involved and a willingness to engage in meaningful dialogue. The coming months will be critical in determining whether this latest effort can usher in a new era of stability for Myanmar or if it will be just another fleeting moment in a long history of conflict.